My name is Brandon Mason, and I own and operate with my wife, Mason Farms, in northeastern Colorado, a little town called Merino. So we farm 10,000 acres of dryland, cropland. We farm a lot of hay, and we also farm grain. We do wheat, corn, and barley for forage hay as well. Our hay is mostly all millet hay. We do a little bit of grass and some oats. So we farm right at 10,000 acres of dryland farm ground here in northeastern Colorado. I've always wanted to farm growing up. I started in 1999 with a quarter section of dryland farm ground and have grown from there. So when I started with a quarter section, my grandfather was farming and my dad was taking care of the cows. At the time, there wasn't enough acreage or workload or financial income for me to come back to the farm full time. And so I knew that if I wanted to do that, I would have to grow it. My grandpa sat me down and said that it would probably be wise for me to try and find something else to make some income along with the dryland farm and kind of do that on the side just because there wasn't enough income. And so I actually, in college, started working as a EMT and a firefighter and done that on the side so that way I could continue to farm and grow my farm. In 2003, my grandfather got sick and had to move to town to seek medical treatment, and that's when I moved onto the farm where I live now. At that time, in 2003, we had right at 950 acres total, which still wasn't quite enough to make a living. So at that point in time, I decided to take some of the equipment that I already had and try and go do some custom work with a buddy of mine. And to be honest, it was kind of a do or die situation because if that didn't work, it was probably to the point where I was going to have to go get a full-time job in town, which I really didn't want to do. I really wanted to come back to the farm. So we started doing some custom haying. We already had the equipment. And at that point in time, we decided to buy a big square baler. We started out with a 4900 Massey. And from there, we just kept growing and continuing to grow until 2019, when we decided to kind of separate from the custom business. My farm at that point in time had grown enough that it was able to sustain on its own without having to supplement it with the custom work. And so in 2019, I also had the opportunity to buy a bunch of ground, and with that purchase of ground, I was able to rent a bunch of ground as well. And so at that point in time, I was married to my wife and we had a couple little kids. And so that's when we decided to kind of shift away from the custom work. What has made my operation successful is a couple things. Hard work. You have to be able to think ahead and try and plan ahead and not be afraid to take a risk. But the risk has to be calculated. And that's where I think it's very important to really weigh the pros and cons, look at your markets, look at, if it's equipment, look at other options to try and find what's going to fit best for your market, whether it's a round baler or a big square baler or even maybe a small square baler. We try and find a bunch of different markets. Some of them are niche markets. I'll be honest, some of the wheat we sell actually goes to a brewery to make beer. We also sell a lot of hay to not only just a big feedlot or dairy, we also do those as well, but we also try and take care of the small guys, even if it's a small guy that just has 20 or 30 or 40 head of cows all the way up to a large feed yard or a large dairy. I look back and think, well, I was a small guy at one point in time, and so my heart kind of always goes out to those guys and wants to help those guys if they want to grow or not, or even if they just want to sustain. That's why I like to try and reach out to those guys and sell to those guys as well. By having a lot of different markets, you always have that stability. If somebody decides to go a different route or change the way they're going with what they're purchasing, it's not a free-for-all and what am I going to do, where am I going to go? I still have other outlets that I can go down and try and fill the gaps. It is a lot of work and a lot of bookkeeping to sell to a lot of different guys, especially the small individual guys. And honestly, a lot of it, you just have to do a good job of keeping track of your records, scale tickets, what goes where and when it goes. That way it can be billed properly and nothing falls through the cracks. Luckily, my wife helps me with some of that as far as keeping track of that and helping with all the billing as well and keeping track of all the records. We're very meticulous about our equipment and we're very meticulous about keeping it up and keeping it well maintained and clean. Every piece of equipment that is big that we have, whether it's a tractor or a baler or a swather, or even our trucks and our pickups, get pulled in regularly and washed and cleaned. Every one of them comes in the shop as well in the wintertime, and we wax them. When they come in the shop, not only are we cleaning them, but we're going through them, try to go through them with a fine-tooth comb to look them over, see what needs to be done, what needs to be repaired, what needs to be fixed, or if there's anything that's getting wore. Try and take care of that before we go to the field. If we take care of our equipment will take care of us, and in return, that's how our operation works and how we found to be successful. We do utilize our local dealership, Redland. We bring our equipment in from time to time and rotate it through and let them do a winter inspection. That allows another set of eyes to be placed on it and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Sometimes we have a list already of some stuff that we want them to look at to see if it's an issue or needs to be replaced or what is maybe possibly wrong before we take it to the field in the spring or summertime. After that, we usually bring it back and then use the list of stuff that they've provided for us on what needs to be done. Some of the work we do have them do, but we try and do a lot of the work here in our own shop in the off season or when we have downtime to go through that equipment and try and get it field ready. That way it's ready when it's time to go, we don't have to be working on it. We try and stock a lot of parts. We go through and we utilize Redland equipment to get our parts. We also utilize them because a lot of times when we get a new piece of equipment, they'll know some of the wear parts, or they'll know the parts that maybe have a tendency to wear out or break possibly. And so we try and go through and get a list of all that parts for each piece of equipment, and we try and stock it here in our shop on our farm. So that way when we do have a breakdown, we're not having to worry about running to town to get the parts and or even having if the parts are available. Sometimes by having those parts here on our own farm, we're able to save a lot of time with not having to go chase down parts. We keep everything organized in shelves for each piece of equipment. Everything's labeled, so that way when we do have a breakdown, I can send any one of my guys back to the shop and say, we need this part for this piece of equipment, and they can find it easily on the shelf and grab it, and we can hopefully be back in the field going in a very short amount of time. We've also found that some of our neighbors have also utilized that as well, because sometimes we'll have something that they need being 25 miles from town. A lot of times if we have it, they'll just come here and grab it. After we pull something off our shelves, we call the dealership there at Redland and go ahead and get that part ordered, so that way we can have our supply restocked in a timely fashion. So the way we've been able to justify it in our mind, because it is a huge expense for us to stock all these parts on our shelf. Redland's been great with working with us. If we upgrade equipment, trade that equipment off, they take those parts back if they don't fit the new piece of equipment we get, and then trade it in for a part that is comparable for the new piece of equipment we got, whether it's on a baler or a swather or a tractor. With all that expense, even though it is a large expense, downtime is a huge expense to us. It's very costly to be down, especially if there's a storm coming and we're trying to get the hay put up before the storm comes. And at the end of the day, that has outweighed the financial cost up front of buying those parts. We have to be very efficient with what we do. We try and maximize our equipment. We don't like to have a lot of extra equipment sitting around, so that's why we try and run little newer equipment, later model equipment. And that's why it's so important for us to really keep that equipment up and keep it well maintained and serviced, because when it's time to go, we really push that equipment pretty hard and try and get the most out of it. That way we're not wasting a lot of equipment sitting around. We run a 4x4 big square baler, Massey. Right now we are currently with an 2244. We just stepped up last year from a 2290. We actually started out originally with a 4900 Heston, a big square baler, and we've just continued to work our way up. The couple big reasons we switched and moved up to the new 2244 was the efficiency. We also liked the new technology that it came with. Being able to adjust the bale length from inside the cab was a huge benefit, and having that electronic bale adjustment, it's really helped make sure that we have a consistent length on our bale when we do set it. With the new LB2244, we're able to get more tons put up in a day than we are with our older balers. And at the end of the day, we're trying to maximize our equipment as much as we can and try and run less equipment. So that's why it's so important for us to be able to get the most tons put up in a day that we can, especially, like I say, to beat a storm. At the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do, is get the hay put up before it gets rained on. So Redland's always had our backs, whether it's with parts or getting us equipment we need through the sales department. Even the simple things of demoing new equipment. If we have a question about something, they've been very good about answering the questions. And honestly, if they don't know, they've found out in a very timely fashion. If we've asked about a new piece of equipment, they've been more than willing to get it out here to demo. And at the end of the day, where we're trying to get the most out of our equipment, it's very important to find the best equipment that we can. And I always look at it as more of a partnership between me and them. If we don't succeed, it's going to be hard for them to succeed, and if they don't succeed, it's going to be hard for us to succeed.